This is a world where money has no value. Here, time is everything. If you want to buy anything, you have to pay for it with a portion of your life. Only then can you own it. But to live a good life in this world, having enough time is essential, because when a person turns 25, a 1-year countdown starts on their arm. The moment that countdown reaches 0, the person dies. The rich had so much time that they could live for 1,000 years if they wanted. They created a separate world for themselves, where they lived peaceful and luxurious lives. On the other hand, poor people living in ghetto city worked day and night just to earn time, because without it, their lives would end. In this poor neighborhood lived a young man named Will. Only 23 hours were left on his clock. Will lived with his mother. Since aging stops after 25, his mother looked very young even though she was 50 years old. Today was her 50th birthday. To celebrate his mother's birthday, Will worked overtime the previous night and bought a bottle of champagne. Seeing this made his mother very happy. She told Will that she wanted to see her grandchildren and asked why he didn't date any girls. Will replied that who even has time for such things. His mother then told him that she had to clear the electricity bill and the bank loan by tomorrow, or they would be fined. She said she was leaving now and would return after paying all the bills and loans. She explained that she had only 3 days of time left, and almost all of it would be spent paying bills. She asked Will to wait for her at the bus stop tomorrow evening so she could take some time from him before her clock ran out. Will promised he would be there on time. Before leaving, Will's mother touched his arm and transferred some time to him so he could buy breakfast. After that, both of them left for work. On the way, a little girl approached Will and asked him for some time in exchange for a time capsule. Smiling, Will gave her 5 minutes of his life through the capsule. From this, we learn that people can store time in capsules and use or transfer it whenever they want. Will then arrived at the factory. Before starting work, he went to buy coffee, but he noticed that the prices of everything had doubled. Coffee that once cost 2 minutes now cost 4 minutes. Prices could be increased anytime without warning. This deeply upset Will, but helplessly, he paid 4 minutes of his life and started working. After a long day, Will went to a bar with his friend, who was a hardcore alcoholic and always drunk. His friend pointed out a man who was buying drinks for everyone and clearly had a lot of time. When Will looked at the man's clock, he saw 116 years. Will immediately understood that the man was from Greenwich City, because in Ghetto City, people barely had more than 2 days. Will warned the man that he didn't belong there and that thieves could kill him and steal his time. But the man ignored Will and continued drinking. Suddenly, a gangster named Fortis entered the bar with his gang. Everyone ran away in fear. Fortis and his gang were notorious criminals who stole time by force. Will's friend tried to drag him away, but Will refused and hid in a corner to watch. Fortis challenged the rich man to a time fight, a wrist-lock duel where the loser would lose all their time to the winner. In this fight, whoever's wrist was pushed down would start losing time, which transferred to the other person. The winner absorbed all the time, killing the loser. The rich man said he had drunk too much and needed some time to prepare. Fortis agreed and sent one of his men to make sure the man didn't escape. In the bathroom, the man vomited badly. In that condition, his defeat was certain. At that moment, Will attacked Fortis's guard, saved the man, and took him to a safe place. Will scolded him for knowingly wasting his life. The man introduced himself as Henry and asked Will his age. Will said he was 28. Henry replied that he was 105 years old and tired of life. He had experienced everything and no longer wanted to live. Henry explained that the system was designed to keep the poor dying while the rich benefited. Inflation was increased deliberately, so poor people would keep dying and the rich of Greenwich could live forever. Henry said he didn't want a life built on the deaths of the poor. Henry asked Will what he would do if he had that much time. Will smiled and said he would stop constantly checking his clock. He lived in constant fear that his time would run out. He said his mother worked extremely hard, and if he had enough time, he would buy her a house in Greenwich City so they could live peacefully. They stayed together that night. In the morning, Henry transferred all his time to Will and left himself with only a few minutes. He went and sat on a bridge. When Will woke up, Henry was gone. Will checked his clock and saw 116 years added. On the window, Henry had written, "Don't waste my time." Will ran toward the bridge, but it was too late. Henry's time ran out and he fell into the water below. Will was devastated. Knowing people would suspect him, Will left the city. He gave his friend 10 years of time and decided to buy a safe life for his mother in Greenwich City. Meanwhile, Will's mother couldn't afford the doubled bus fare. She had only 90 minutes left. No one helped her. She ran desperately toward home. Will waited at the bus stop with flowers, but his mother never arrived. He searched for her, and she ran out of time just as she reached him, dying in his arms. The next morning, timekeepers, the police of this world, found Henry's body. Officer Raymond checked CCTV footage and saw Will near the bridge, making him a suspect. Will entered Greenwich City by paying 1 year of time. Seeing the luxury and endless time, people had shocked him. Even bodyguards had over 100 years. Furious, Will stayed at a luxury hotel. At a casino, he played poker against Philip, the richest man, and won 1,100 years. Philip's daughter, Sylvia, was impressed and invited Will to a party. At the party, Will and Sylvia danced, but timekeeper Raymond arrived and arrested Will. Raymond took all his time, leaving him with only 2 hours. Will escaped, took Sylvia hostage, and fled toward Ghetto City. On the way, Fortis attacked them, stole Sylvia's time, and left them nearly dead. They sold Sylvia's diamond earrings to survive. Will called Philip and demanded 10,000 years to distribute among the poor in exchange for Sylvia's safety. Philip refused. Sylvia realized her father was the head of the cruel system. Now both Will and Sylvia became outlaws. Together, they robbed time banks and distributed time among the poor. The government placed a bounty on them, and Fortis hunted them down. Eventually, Will defeated Fortis in a final time fight. The rich tried to counter by increasing inflation, making the stolen time worthless. But Will and Sylvia stole a massive time capsule containing 1 million years and delivered it to the poor. Raymond chased them, but forgot to transfer his own time and died when his clock hit 0. In the end, Will saved Sylvia at the last second, just like he couldn't save his mother. Thanks to them, the people of Ghetto City became free and immortal, no longer forced to work just to survive. The system created by the rich collapsed, and the story comes to an end.